This video is going to show you a Master Presage solo flawless on all three classes back to back. So that means that for this challenge sort of thing, you've got to solo flawless in one playthrough on all three classes rather than just one per se. So say for example I do Titan, Warlock, Hunter in that order, and I get Titan and Warlock done for the solo flawless, but I die on the Hunter, then I would have to restart to the first run and then go again. Obviously that's not what happened, but that's the idea of it. I've done the same thing with the dungeons, which I uploaded recently. That was too long to do commentary on. This one isn't, because 3 Presages is going to be shorter than what 4 dungeons will be. So, you know, I can sort of do commentary on this one. So I'll just give an intro of each class and then the whole thing will play out. But for the Titan, what I went with, this is just basic information about it. There'll be more information about each class in the run itself. We went with Sentinel, Top Tree, Code the Protector, Void Wall Grenade, Tower and Barricade, with the exotic Gauntlet Simceps, which buffs our melee range, buffs our damage, all sorts of things. We went with a Blinding Grenade Launcher, Ignition Code, so we can blind a lot of lads. So double special for this, and then a Solar Coordinate Fusion Rifle with Boss Spec Vorpal Weapon in it, and then the exotic Grenade Launcher Anarchy, just for a change. So each class I'll try to vary up what weapons I'm sort of using. I don't want every class just to be a certain exotic. So each class has tried to vary up, because it'd be boring for you to watch it if it was just Sleeper or this Rocket or Galahorn or whatever it may be. So this is what we went with on the Titan. Works out really good because it's double special, so you're going to get plenty of heavy, plenty of ammo. Our armor mods are as follows: high energy fire, ammo finder perks on the helmet with a hands-on, which gives us increased super energy on melee kills. GL loader with a Reaping Well Maker mod, just to tell you what that states. After activating your class ability, your next weapon final blow on a combatant spawns a Void Well. That's any weapon final blow, so this allows you to get a lot of wells. We then pair that with Font of Wisdom, which gives us an increased stat to our intellect for 30 seconds when you pick up an elemental well, which we will via the Reaping Well Maker. Soul damage resistance, concussive damage on the chest plate, GL scavenger, fusion rifle scavengers on the boots with a shield break charge and an elemental charge. So elemental charge means when we pick up that void well, we get charge of light. Also, if we break a shield, we'll also get charge of light, which thus gives us high energy fire, which is a 20% weapon damage buff. And bubbles is weapons of light is a 35% damage buff when we pop a bubble, but when we're not using bubble, we can get, utilize a high energy fire. So that's what we're using on the Titan. Swap these out, and then show you what we were using on the Warlock. So the build was pretty basic on the Warlock. The Warlock doesn't need a lot to make it decent anyways. So what I went with for the Warlock was Well of Radiance, Tournament of Grace, Solar Grenade, Healing Rift with the exotic chestplate Phoenix Protocol, so we get a lot of wells, right? Weapon wise, we're using Fatebringer in our Kinetic slot, No Composure for this loadout with Boss Spec in it, and Sleeper Simulant, the exotic Linear Fusion, just for something different as opposed to what the Titan was running. Armor mods, we were using ammo finders on the helmet as usual, fusion rifle loader, shield crash well maker, which generates an elemental well based on the shield that you break. So if it's a solar shield, you get a solar one. If it's void, it's a void. So this wasn't the best sort of thing. I could have done something a little bit better, but as I said, it worked out fine anyways. Font of Wisdom, if we pick up that elemental well, 30 seconds to our intellect, same again. And then a basic high energy fire, shield break charge, which is a 20% weapon damage bonus. That was what we used on the Warlock, so it's just to be expected. And then on the Hunter we do a different build entirely. I'll just first transfer some weapons over. So the Hunter, we do use a couple of weapons that are similar to Titan, but it is a completely different run, the approach to it. So for the Hunter we use Top Tree Night Stalker, We're the Trapper, Vortex Grenade, Marksman's Dodge, pairing that with the exotic chestplate, the 6 Coyote, which gives us double dodge. So this is the build for the Night Stalker Top Tree Invis. We use an ignition code, same thing. We blind nades, the same fusion rifle coordinate as what we did on the Titan, and then lament. You'll see how easy it is on the Hunter, especially with the lament setup. So the lament setup is as follows. We're using passive guard because it's up this season. We loosen blade, so we need to opt in for a loosen blade build. So you can get a lot of charge of light from Reap and Wellmaker, the same thing, because it's very powerful. This so Reap and Wellmaker, when we dodge the next final blow, we get an elemental well. You can even buff that well and make it that you're more tanky when you pick up that void well with Well of Tenacity. And obviously you need elemental charge to make that well make you charge of light, thus giving you Loosen Blade. So it's extremely powerful, this setup. This is probably the easiest of the three to do. Other stats that we had: Sword Scavenger, Fusion Rifle Scavenger, Arc Damage Resistance, Concussive Dampener to proc. The Arc is just to proc the Powerful Friends. Fusion Rifle Loader, Bolster and Detonation, Ammo Finders, Double Sword. Sword Scavenger stacks, right? But I just used one. One was enough. So that's the three classes that the builds I was using. So we'll start with the Titan. We'll make our way to the ship as per usual. Just making the jumps. Not much to the start, of course. You just need to make the jumps. There is a shortcut you can make right here. I didn't take it. It's to my left. There's a little platform you can stand on to make an extra jump, so you save like 5 seconds. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Make our way through the ship. Obviously we're going double special anarchy, as I said before. Reason being is we don't need a primary in this. Because of the build, because of what damage output you can put with Simceps, but it's melee on top tree sentinel as well. The fact that you get your health back, you can do this on military hammers for sure. I could have done that. I just didn't choose to do it that way. As if you're not familiar with that build, then you can't really do it with that. You need to know exactly what you're doing with it. With this, pretty much anyone can do it. You just need to, as I say, put on Simceps, top tree sentinel, and then you'll get health regen for every melee kill that you do. Whether it's charged melee or uncharged, you get melee on all kill. You get HP on all melee kills. So we'll just make our way through the maze section. If it's a case of that you struggle to remember where to go, this is something that you need to learn. Obviously this secret mission, if you like, is going to be sunset in the next 2 weeks. So this is why I'm just doing this sort of last type of video on it before it goes away. Because I just don't want to regret anything. Since when 0 Hour went away, I wish there was more things I'd done with 0 Hour before it got sunset, and even the Whisper mission. However, I did do a lot with those missions when they were out, but it's one of those things, when they get sunset, you kind of wish they were still in the game, because you could do, you know, some stuff with it. I still wish sort of 0 Hour was in the game. There's no reason why, you know, it shouldn't be, but at the very least, that's one thing they could have kept in, but I guess they didn't go that route. So we'll take the fuse here. There's going to be a bunch of screeds, of course. You just want to skip them. All this stuff's a time waste to you. You don't want to be losing time by trying to kill all these screeds. You don't need to do that. At the very least, jump over their heads to try and make some of them explode. that is your best bet. That way you're making your way to your next target while some of them are dying. Not only that, you've got a blinding grenade launcher on, which is one of the most versatile weapons in the game. So we'll do a blind shot here, take out the fuse with the fusion, which obviously will one shot easily, and then we can make our way to the compactor. So with the compactor section, obviously you've got to get 3 fuses within the time before you get crushed. The biggest thing is what you need to do is multitask. Do not shoot the ads. Do not grenade the ads. Don't look at the ads. Well, look at them, but don't pay too much attention to it because they're just more of a distraction. So what you want to be doing is looking for these fuses, right? Now, the random location. The biggest thing about this is look on the outskirts first, the outskirt vents, because those are the ones you have least amount of time on. Now, if RNG is against you, you might have all 3 on the outside vents, giving you less time to get them, meaning you're going to lose a lot of time. So keep an eye on that, and then if they're not on the outskirts, they must be in middle, right? And then you can take them from there. So we'll do a barricade here to take out this captain. Use a void nade. We've got no void on, so we want to sort of, I mean, particle deconstruction can sort of override that, you know, that's why we've got this fusion on anyways, but we sort of need it for the captains at the end. We are looking to take out the 2 snipers first, blind those, blind all the ads around you, and then just one-shot melee them. That's the best way, and that way we've took out at least 1 void captain and the 2 snipers, and then this room is a hell of a lot easier once you do that. As I said, on a Titan you may as well use an aggressive build. You may as well do that because that's what the Titan's probably best at doing. And when you're in an activity that is not above your power, say if it's like a GM, okay, they start to lose a bit of their potency, but when you're at power, they are very strong class. So in missions like this, take advantage of melee builds, you know, military hammers, striker titan, military, top tree. Take advantage of stuff like that. Now we're just finishing off the rest of the room. As you can see, I just keep getting my health back. Got the second spawn of Ravengers. There's 2 spawns, 3 void captains, 2 snipers, and the rest are Ravengers. We don't want to waste too much ammo. If you notice, I haven't got any special on the floor, and I've only got 8 fusion rifle shots. Because on this run, I was using Anarchy Fusion, which is a really good loadout. Because your fusions obviously is doing most of the damage, but Anarchy's assisting with that, like what Witherhorde would. But the Anarchy particle deconstruction standard fusion loadout is actually super strong, good for damage, really good. We'll do a blind here and take out the Arc Captain first. My goal here is just to take out 2 of the captains. If you take out 3, you're wasting your time because you'll get 3 captains respawn anyways, so you can kill less captains by just killing 2 captains. Then when the respawn happens after the ogre is killed, one of the ogres, you will then only get 2 fresh captains spawn because 1 was already alive, right? It's just which one you keep up. For this setup, I actually just killed the Arc one. I generally don't, but my decision making was, well, I need solar fusion for damage, and I don't have much ammo on that, so that's why we didn't kill the solar captain. We'll do a bubble up top. Start with double Anarchy, and then use Cartesian. You can see the damage it's doing, really good. You'll get a spawn of Ravengers as well, which you're safe enough in your bubble. What I could have done, or should have done a little bit quicker, is an Anarchy right at my feet, which I did in the end, but it takes them all out. My bubble's still up. We're trying to spawn kill one of the ogres so that we're still in our bubble when the next void captain respawns in. That was what my goal was, to do that. Which you can do it, as I say, on this loadout if you want to do it. I know there's not as many people using Anarchy, but you'll see the usage go up next season once particle deconstruction goes away. There will be probably a new powerful mod that adds a debuff to a weapon type. Don't know what that is. It's probably rockets, but it might not be. Or there might not be any. They might go the route where there's none, because if we think about it like this way, there's a new raid coming out with Witch Queen. Do they really want a super OP mod in that raid? I don't think they do. So a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, we're gonna get, you know, a rocket mod or a super mod, because we've had one each season, but they might skip it this season because there's a raid. But I'm not sure. No one knows really until it happens. We're just clearing off the remainder of the room, which is simple to do with blind nades. That's the goal with this, is just, if you're going to start going in with your melee combos, do your blind first, then just start meleeing everything, and you can just about one-shot everything. An unshielded captain, you can pretty much one-shot him. If you have your charge, if you have your void charge, then you'll break the captain's shield. So that's the first combat sequence done anyways. As you saw, the Anarchy plus Fusion loadout worked really well on the Ogres, and those Ogres are quite tanky. They're not like weak or anything, they are quite tanky with their health bill. So now we're back to the maze section. So it's just a simple case of following the route. Obviously if you already know the route, then you know. Then it's easy. Obviously day one when this first came out, that wasn't the case. People didn't know the route. So if you were timed and you didn't know the route, the chances are you probably didn't get it done first go. You'll have learned from the first run and then went that way. So the fusion is a little tricky to get the damage on the fuse, but I would do end up getting it. Take our shot. Get the next lever. If you're quick enough, you can back right out before the arc wall comes up, but I wasn't quick enough for that. That's fine though. The only thing that's bad about this loadout is I don't have a weapon to destroy fusion, destroy the cells. So I have to rely on the fusion, which at times I don't want to waste it, but so you've sort of got to do it that way. But for everything else, this loadout's really good. I'm going to use a super in this room just to speed it up. Take out the two void captains at the back. They're generally they slow you down, because they do their tethers, they make the lurkers immune. But obviously if you do a super or a Roman super, that will penetrate immunity. So when I add tethers, another add, or if a champion does that, any Roman super in the game will penetrate immunity. Weller Radiance will also do this, but for whatever reason Bubble won't. A Ward of Dome Bubble won't penetrate. Maybe it's done that way to balance it, because it is the highest buff that you can get. Jump over the screeb, activate the lever, and this is one of the final rooms before the boss. We don't have a super. There's two ogres in this room, which they can wipe you, but as long as you play it right, it's fine. What you want to try and do is focus on that intersection. Try and get whatever loadout you're using as much damage in there to take out all the screebs and the ramages. Once you've done that, you can then deal with the Scorn Augers. And that's that section done with. We're 12 minutes in, so this is an average run, I would say. We did really well at the boss, save a lot of time at the boss, just because of how good the loadout is. Anarchy still puts in a lot of work on mages, champions, things like that. It's still the same. It's reduced damage against bosses when they nerfed it. So that's where you're going to see. But if you're pairing it with a high special weapon, like damage wise, like right now this season, the coordinate fusion is, I believe it's the highest DPS special weapon in the game, in the coordinate. I believe so, anyways. But when you're pairing it a weapon like that, that's your main damage. Your Anarchy is assisting that. So in the future, if there's any high, DPS weapon in the energy slot, kinetic or special, then Anarchy's still a good choice to pair it with. We're not going to do this little bit in two ways. In one way, we're going to get 2 buffs. So we use the Reaping Well Maker there. So I pop my barricade, then kill the ads. That then spawned an orb, so we got Charge of Light. So this means I'm going to get a 20% weapon damage bonus to start. That means I don't need to pop a bubble right away. It just means I get a little bit of extra damage on this first section, because obviously the boss starts at the top. So I do double Anarchy, my fusion until he's immune, then ads will spawn in, use a grenade. I'm actually going to use my super here because I'm confident on getting the damage in. I was that confident with the damage because generally I would use a bubble down below. I was that confident with just having the high energy fire. I just went for the time save up top. That's the final captain dealt with. Our super just cleared out the full room basically. It's really good this, I mean, this super's void, right, void based. It's just over penetrated solo match game shields. The super itself's decent as it is, but Simceps obviously enhances that. Now a lot of people will run Code of the Commander, which is really good, but it's not as safe as what Top Tree is, because you're getting that health regen. It's more reliable, the Top Tree, but Middle Tree's got its uses. I'm not saying it hasn't, but Top Tree's a more safer class, I would say. So we're high energy fire, as you see. So we'll use our damage. You can see the damage I've just done. I could do more damage if I wanted to, but what I'm wanting to do is clear these ads. This benefits us for later on, so that when we come down, we don't need to deal with any ads at all, and can quickly take them out with Anarchy. Just blind them first, Anarchy at their feet, that thing just about kills them. We need to be mobile though, because we are on a titan, we can't go invis, we can't heal, like with a healing rate or anything, so we've got to rely on our melee to get the HP back. We'll do the remainder of damage to the boss. The downstairs is clear, that's good. We'll pop a barricade, because we're going to want a elemental well. We get our elemental well, we got improved ability regen, we're more than halfway to a super. And we're just going to keep blind all the ads. On this particular phase there is snipers. Not a problem to take them. Get another blind in. Take down their shield and then just melee them. It just shows you how easy this is for ad clear. It's just a case of, because sometimes these rooms can be chaotic, depending on what what you're running and stuff. We'll kill the 2 remaining stalkers each time. You get extra 2 per phase. For each damage phase, you get extra stalkers up top as well. So if you want to farm them for Charge of Light or Elemental Wells, you can do that. Which you do see me do that maybe on this next phase actually. I'm also not killing the ads with my weapons. Now I'm doing that to keep the Charge of Light, just in case I want to do some DPS without bubble. I am aware high energy fire does not stack with bubble, I know that. But when I don't want to use my bubble, right, or whatever it is, I still have the benefit of getting that at least 20% better than nothing. No ads are here because we cleared them out from the previous phase, really nice. This boss has 2 or 3 different animations. That animation you just saw there, he does his move where he's stuck in place. He does this solar flame. As long as you're out of the solar flame, you're fine, right? But you just need to, he's basically weak. You can take him. As you can see, he's just standing there, so he's just judging what he does. We took out the remainder of the ads as well, used a Roman super rather than the bubble, because he was literally there anyways. I could have bubbled, but I just used the Roman super instead. Now back to the final phase. We're not going to come back up here. There is X set of solar captains up top, but because we do add clear down below on the particular way that we're doing it now, generally I don't do it like that. Generally I just leave the arc captains up because they're not a problem, especially if you're using something like Lament. But on this loadout it was benefit to me to take the captains, that way I was free to do the damage I needed to do. There's an extra spawn of scavengers, Ravengers on this phase. Just spawning ahead of it. Because we're ahead of the spawn, generally they spawn in a little bit sooner than that. Just melee all those. That's the room clear. We're close to a super. My ammo's decent. I haven't got a lot of fusion rifle ammo, but it's good enough. Full on heavy. We're not killing these ads, we're keeping our weapon buff, because as I say, if we kill them we lose our stack, so we don't want to lose that. Because we haven't quite got super yet anyway. That's another elemental well, so I've done the same thing, popped a barricade. Really good reaping well maker. It's exceptional on the hunter, which you'll see at the end. That's the last run, but it's good. It's really good on this class as well. Double Anarchy the boss, he's doing his move where he's stuck in place. The ads spawn around about just over halfway of damage for each phase. And I'll use a super and then take advantage of the Simceps. The boss is weak enough for my super to kill him, so that's why I just popped it there rather than bubble. Don't really need to. These arc captains do not despawn, so just know that your flawless is not done until you come up to this top platform. The ads upstairs despawn, but the arc captains don't. I don't know why that is. But anyways, that's the Titan run. So that's the first one checked off. As I said, this is back to back, so this footage was, you know, it was one playthrough. So we'll change character now, and then we'll go to the Warlock. So same deal with the Warlock run, of course. Just make our way to the ship to the left side and just make the jumps. Obviously, depending on which class you main, if you're not in Warlock main, you might not be used to the jumps, what have you. I'm used to all three, of course, and I highly recommend that if you're somebody that plays this game a lot, you play all three classes. You're doing yourself disservice if you don't play all three classes. You know, I've met a lot of mains of each class where they'll only touch one class, and they can't justify a reason to me why they do that. Now, people who haven't got the time, that's a reason. That's a reason for them to say, right, I just haven't got time for the other three. That's fine, right? I'll accept that. But for people who have thousands and hours of of time in this game, and they can't even make a Warlock, they're doing themselves disservice. So if you're serious enough about this game, and this is the only game that you play, which if you're watching this, I would probably be willing to guess that you probably play this in another game and that's it, because you're probably really into Destiny. Then make sure you're playing all 3 classes, especially next season with what's going on, with all the new glaives and all that stuff, class specific stuff, you know. So in any case, so we'll just make our way through the maze. It's going to be similar commentary obviously for each 3 on this section. It's just when we get to the combat sequences where things obviously will change a little bit. Now on comparison to the Titan run, we don't have blinding grenades, so it's a little bit different. Well, we're messing up our jump here a little bit. It's fine though. So in comparison to the Titan, it's going to be a little bit more. You're going to have to be a bit more tactical, use your heal and use your well, and play more from range rather than going in melee and everything. Obviously that's the Titan playstyle, but not so much for the Warlock, not on this setup anyhow. So we're going to kill some of these Screeb here, just for super energy. This was actually my first run on the Warlock, like, for this week. I haven't played much Warlock or Hunter on Presage at all. So this was like on this attempt of getting the soul flawless back to back to back. This was the run, right? This was basically the. I think I died once on the Titan and then reset, which you saw at the start of the video, and then after that it was just basically, you know, all of them. Because once you're in the practice of the mission again, it's not a problem to you to do these. Come to get this lever. We'll have to be a bit more careful with these Screebs because we don't have blinding grenades. If 4 or 5 Screebs hit us, that will be a death, whether we've got arc resist on or not. I believe I don't have arc resist. I've got solar damage. Actually, I can't mind what my chest plate had on. But solar damage resistance is the best for this, because the boss does put out a lot of solar to you, and the room itself at the boss down below does solar damage because the room's heating up. So when you're taking that tick damage, it's actually solar damage that's hitting you. So that's another reason why solar's so good. Arc's okay, it'll defend you, it'll defend against some of the captains, it'll defend against Screebs, but for the most part it's solar. Void wouldn't be a bad shout either, but solar's probably the best if you can fit it in. So we're at the trash compactor again with the 3 fuses. So I'm just hoping I don't get bad RNG, because if I do, obviously I'll have to reset the run, but I am getting bad RNG so far. Jump over the Screebs though. Do our best to look. There's 1 in middle at least, 2 in mid. There's 1 missing though. So I'm worrying at this minute, thinking where's the last one, because as I say, it will mean that, it won't mean I'll wipe, it would just mean that you would lose 1 minute and 30 seconds, because you can survive the trash compactor. If you go back to where the switch is, that was close by the way, if you go back to where the switch is, you can let the trash compactor doors shut, it will not kill you, then they open, then you have the added benefit of no Screeb spawning, because they've already spawned. So now on with the first combat sequence. So how I'm going to do it on the walk is very similar in terms of how we start. We'll start with a empowered melee to get that buff. Then we melt him down with no composure, then a well right here. My main objective is to take out a lot of the Ravengers and get as much super energy. If you keep a note on my super bar, how good Phoenix is right now. I mean, Phoenix has always been good, but it went through a phase of being nerfed and then they changed it, where all super regen exotics work very similar. But now, since the super, with the intellect change in PvE, Phoenix Protocol basically got an indirect buff because of that. Because of how, basically, for damage that you deal to adds or damage you take, you get super energy for, which is stacking with Phoenix. So Phoenix now is probably as good as it was when it first launched. So Phoenix is like really good to run now. If it wasn't already, it is definitely now because of the intellect changes. So the next room we're going to have a bunch of ogres and a lot of captains and things. So this room's a little bit harder than the first. But we can take a similar approach to what we did on the tanks. We've got a well, right? So we can get our a lot of our damage up on top of the bridge. So this time I won't take the arc captain because I don't have an arc weapon on me. So as I said from the other video, not from the other video, but from the other run, you only need to take out 2 captains. So for this particular run I have Void and Solar, so I'm going to take the Void and Solar, leave arc up, because when the captains respawn anyways, it'll just mean you get 2 captains rather than 3. Was wanting to solo nade the lurkers, but they shot down my nade, which adds can do that. We're going to use a sleeper for the chieftain. Then we'll have a well ready for the ogre. So we'll lead with no composure to get max stacks with particle deconstruction. You can see I only done a couple of shots of sleep and that ogre's already dead. Right? Because what's happening there is well radiance is stacking with your particle deconstruction. We'll kill all these Ravengers as well. We have 7 seconds left on our well, so we can use the rest of the damage. That's our well run out. We're at 65%, so we're not bad. Screebs spawn independently, and they spawn based on the amount of time that you have standing up on this bridge, so don't stand up too long. It's better to melt the ogres as quickly as you can, because you'll just keep getting scrapes. Then we're going to melt the Void Captain, the fresh Captain that spawns in. That was my intention. Obviously once you melt an ogre that happens, that's when you get your refresh on the Captains. Then we'll just spawn kill all these Ravengers with Fatebringer. And the fact when you shoot their solar lantern, they all explode. It's handy to know that about Scorn. You need to know a lot of information about Scorn, because they're going to be one of the factions you fight against in Witch Queen. I don't know how much, but they've been shown in trailers and things. But it's handy to know on how each enemy type works, right, with certain things, because all that stuff matters the higher the difficulty is of the activity that you're doing. Like if you're just in patrol, it doesn't matter, right? You're just shooting ads at that point. But when you're in something a bit more difficult, like a GM, then you really need to go into a great deal of what snipers do. Like the raider snipers, when they snipe you, it's counted as 2 snipes, not 1, because it's 2 shots. So you've got to rock a really high resilience with void resist and things like that. Or how the Scorn champions work, or the captains, the solar things that they put up. So they put up traps, so the solar captains burn you, the arc one pulls you to that trap, and the void one it tethers ads and suppresses you. So you got to know a lot of stuff about them. So I'm just glad that they're not on Sunset and Scorn, because I do like Scorn. Ever since this mission came out, I do. I never used to like them as much as I do now, because they have changed a lot of things. They used to go under the floor a lot. The mini scrapes do that, but I think they patched that. But the Ravengers that can go under the floor will be immune for such a long time and just be annoying. We'll get the fuse with no composure, because Fatebringer isn't very good at fuses. I think explosive payload has a weird interaction with the cells. That's all it is. Pick up any special ammo. Our ammo's decent. We're max on heavy, which it just gives us a right to sort of use it when we need it. We have a well of radiance. There's gonna be obviously a time to refill up on super ammo and all that stuff. So there's 2 rooms basically that you need for ad clear, so pick one. For this one, I actually like to use a super, because I find this room more annoying than the next one. Because the next one are just ogres, you just need to melt them down. With this one, they'll make the ads immune and all sorts. And as I said earlier, the Well of Radiance overpowers immunity. As you can see, those ads were tethered, but because I popped a well, standing in a well, it just over penetrates that. It's good to know when you're fighting fallen barriers and things like that, things that tether enemies. If that happens, just pop a well and you can override and kill the ads that are sort of getting in your way. Take out the fuse, get the buff, and then down below. This mini maze, which I didn't mention on the Titan run, there's only a couple of doors that you need to take. It's the double doors that you need to take down. Don't shoot the single doors because it's very easy to get lost down here. So just shoot the double doors, the ones that you need. One for the buff, one to get out, and that way you can't go wrong. And then you to left, jump over the screed. Don't shoot the screed because that's when there won't be enough time unless you use your fusion, which you don't really need to. It's quicker just to jump over the screed. I'm not sure why, but the Warlock one-shots those spawns, the spores. The Titan and the Hunter don't. I think it's probably because the empowered melee. We'll pop a healing retakes. We haven't got well or anything. It's fine though. Kill all these ads at the intersection and then just use Sleeper for the last two ogres. Obviously, the quicker you take these out, the more efficient you are with your time, the more time you have for the boss. The less aggressive you need to be. And that's where it counts really, is at the boss. That's where people will struggle the most, because if they are slow at the boss, say they get there 9 minutes or 8 minutes, they may end up dying because of that. They'll start rushing damage, they'll start slacking on ads, they maybe not clear the captains as good as they should, or they'll try and rush the captains, and that's where you get your wipes. If you're there with a comfortable time, 10 minutes is a comfortable time. You get there with 10 minutes, that's more than enough time. As long as you've got a build in mind on what you're doing, don't just go in there with any old weapons, right? You know, as long as you've got a build in mind, then 10 minutes is long enough for anyone, really. So we'll shoot the fuse. We're not doing this in a one. I have done it in a one go, where you get the buff from here and you go right to the end. But you really need to be scooting at that point. You really need to be fast about it. I'm not well practiced to that extent. I don't play a lot of Presage. The only times I play a Presage is literally when I do a video for it. I don't farm Dead Man's Tail because I've got the Dead Man's Tail I need, which is the 4 times the charm version, or Vorpal. I've got both. So I've already got all the Dead Man's Tail I could ever really want. And anyway, Zer's going to start selling it. So I don't play Presage that much, only for when I'm doing like a video. And it is going to get sunset, so we'll start with DPS. I'll just use No Composure to start. 6 shots made him immune. I could have used Sleeper there, to be fair. I didn't know. Then behind us, use a Solar Nade, and then take out the captains. We'll use a bit. We'll save a bit of Sleeper for some of the captains because it's just handy to one-shot them. This is where the shield crash well makeup comes in. Obviously, I've already got my well anyways, but on the next phase, you'll see the benefit of it, of when I'm picking up the wells. So activate the switches. We actually lost our high energy fire because I've been killing the ads with my weapons. That's fine though, because we're going to use a well pretty much right off the bat. Just take out the final Ravengers, one in the heat room. You do take tick damage obviously in here, so just make sure you approach with full health and it's not a problem. But Solar Resist will help out against that, which you'll notice that took reduced damage. The boss may teleport as soon as you come down here, so just be careful for that. He didn't on this phase. He's doing his attack. I'll do a well straight away. Get particle deconstruction going with the fusion, and then just Sleeper. Sleeper actually does make the DPS really fast. He's literally dead already. Yeah, literally not dead, but that's a third HP. Barely used any heavy, so yeah, Sleeper works out really good for this as well. Obviously, Anarchy worked out good, as you saw with the Titan, but Sleeper is really good, obviously, because of particle deconstruction. Without particle deconstruction, this Sleeper's still really good. So it's still going to be good next season. But it depends on what they're going to do in terms of like debuff mods if they are going to do one. Got a ricochet kill with Sleeper there. Clean up the rest of the ads with Fairbringer. We've got our improved ability regen going. As you can see, it's really helping out. I've just about got my well back and I've only just used it. So this build is really good that way. I just could have done a bit better of a job with my build of picking something else to generate wells easier. The final switch. Now we're on phase 2 of damage. We haven't quite got our well. See, with this loadout, we just having a linear on. You can basically cycle the boss. You can go back and forth. So you can do a bit of damage, jump up. You may get a spawn of stalkers, which that does happen, you know, halfway each phase. So just be aware of it. But what we can do, on this particular strategy, we're not taking our captains like I did on the Titan. So we're a little bit different. Just because we do whatever we do to suit the build that we're using. But what we can do is come down to the other end of the map. If you've got a well, you can use it, and then we can obviously tank a lot of damage. But the boss will be aggroed on your last position. So it's just this game of back and forth between the two exits. But we're doing enough damage now to the final phase. Now it's just a case of cleaning up the final room. We'll do a healing here as I've been unprepared on this room. It's fine though. So we'll one-shot the captains anyways. We'll get the additional spawn on it here as well, of course. Which could be Ravengers, it could be Screebs. It's just a case of keep an eye out on the latter phases for that. The longer you leave the captains up, the more likely they are to do their traps. So take them out quickly, and that way you don't have to deal with that. Because if they do put a trap up, the trap will despawn if they are killed. We've got another elemental well to get that super. We're just about there. We're 6 minutes left, so we've got more than enough time to finish this final phase. The last couple of stalkers, and then it's just a case of doing a well. Hopefully we get some heavy. I've got a brick there, it's 3 shots, which is actually quite a lot. You saw the damage I was doing earlier with Sleeper, so 3 shots is enough to do a lot, you know, a lot of damage. Just check down below first to see where the boss is. This is quite awkward as the arc captains are pushing first, so I'll go to the other side of the map. So the boss now will be aggroed on that other side, so this is how you can ambush the boss if you like. Then you do well, the boss will then notice, and then we'll just start using Sleeper. The boss is doing his move, so I'll just have to wait in the well a sec. No composure will basically finish off the damage for us. I'm using high impact reserves on this, which I forgot to mention. You'll see the extra damage that I'm doing there. But you want to be running a high impact, not the other perk, not reservoir burst. When you're doing something like this, you're better off with the high impact for the no composure. But anyways, we'll switch characters now and then be on for the last soul force, which will be the hunter. So with the last run, obviously we're on Hunter. As I said earlier, we're using a Lucent Blade sword build with the Lament, blinding grenades in the kinetic slot, ignition code, and then the coordinator fusion rifle in our special slot. So this is the final run out of the 3. Obviously we're using passive guard as well, which is up this season. I don't see no reason why not to use it, especially if this mission is going to be the last time I'm going to be able to do it. So, and if anyone who hasn't done it, then I highly recommend you do it before it goes away, like 100%. But I'll provide extra commentary as I have with the other 2, just to finish out the run. But there will be a lot of things I'm repeating, because obviously, you know, there's not a lot of variety with the maze section. There's nothing else I can really add to it. When it gets to the combat bit, combat sequences and the boss, then there is a bit of variety, because you're in a different class. I'm using different weapons, which that was the whole idea, not to use the same weapon type every time. Apart from that, I was using a fusion rifle in every run, but other than that, different exotic heavies and things. So we'll make our way through the maze. This loadout isn't the best for getting the buff, but it's literally double melee and then you get it, so that's fine. In terms of armor mods, we're using, as I said at the start of the video, we have Well of Tenacity, which gives us resistance when we pick up a Void Well with Reap and Well Maker. So Reap and Well Maker, when you use your class ability, shortly afterwards you get a kill with any weapon, you get a Void Well. You can then get Charge of Light if you have Elemental Charge on. It's basically Charge of Light in your back pocket at any time you want it. So it's a really good build. I was really surprised on how good it was, because I haven't been using Well of Tenacity or Reap and Well Maker. I hadn't really looked into it, all the Well mods that much, but when I found out about it, I was actually surprised on how actually good it is, because you can control when you really want Charge of Light the most, whereas just sticking on a take and charge, it isn't always the best, you know. Get our fuse there. There'll be Screams now, because we're on blinding grenades as opposed to the Warlock we weren't, but on this run we are, so we can utilize skipping these Screams, blinding them, getting the fuse, and then moving on, saving time. Which, you know, I would say out of the 3 today that I've done for Titan, Warlock and Hunter, I mean, if you know what you're doing, they're all doable. But for somebody starting new at it, probably the best setup is what I'm using right here, because there's not much to it. Lament will carry you, and if you run 3 sword scavengers, which you can if you have Master Grasp of Avarice boots, you can actually run 3 sword scavengers and they all stack. They shouldn't, but they do. My best guess is why they stack is because the sword scavenger, the enhanced one this season, is artifact based, right? Now I don't know if the standard sword scabs stack. I'm not sure, but that might be why. I'm not sure, but they shouldn't stack. Scavengers aren't meant to stack anymore, right? So it's just one of those things. But it's very good with Lament. It means you can have a lot of Lament. You can literally spam it in anything that you're doing. We're at the Crash Compactor getting all the free fuses. The same guidance as what I said about the others. Make sure that you're multitasking, looking for the fuses, to jump over the Screams. Don't start fighting the Screams, you'll lose too much time doing it that way. So with this first run, we'll start off by blinding this Void Captain. Then we'll go invis immediately. We've got Charge of Light. And we're going to take out these snipers. These snipers are very important. We'll do another invis. Once the 2 snipers are down, it's a done deal this room. Because how hard the snipers hit, because it's not counted as 1 sniper, it's counted as 2. They do 2 shots at you in one go. They hit really hard. So taking out the snipers is vital, and then at that point proceed to then take out each Void Captain. Blind first, right, and then obviously we haven't got Voids. If you've got a need to do that, but Lament will over penetrate the match game shield. just because it's Lament and how good it is. Then we'll just do a Void Nade all in the middle of these RAM just to take them out quickly. What I'm waiting for here is, well, I actually forgot that I didn't have charged up on. I was thinking I had an extra charge of, I could get an extra stack, which I couldn't. So I didn't really need to do that by spawning a well there. But we are charged light nonetheless, which we can use when we get for damage. So this is totally different to the Titan Warlock in how we approach it, because we're not going to fight from the bridge for DPS. We're going to go down where the ogre is. Obviously we Lament, take advantage of passive guard, and we can clear out a lot of adds, especially with our Tether and things. So as we start, I'll go for the Void and the Solar Captain. We never leave the Void, because the Void's a problem. Because if you leave the Void Captain up and fight below, they will spam you with traps and things. So the Void Captain's a must. It's a decision whether you go for Arc or Solar. In my case, obviously Solar. Right, it's just an easier bet to go with, because I've got a matching element. Whereas if I was using Plug 1, maybe I'll go for Arc. But Plug 1's obviously not as good sword. We'll start with a Tether, which a Tether is a debuff. Lucent Blade is a buff, so they do stack. So you can do insane damage, right? So we can basically kill the first ogre in no time. Then we'll get the fresh captains. So I want to spawn kill the solar one at the very least while we're down here. Obviously one of the ogres is full of HP, but that's fine. The advantage to fighting down below like this is you don't get the scrapes. They don't spawn in, they only spawn in if you fight them from the bridge. That's the penalty, I guess. Then we'll take the Arc Captain, which is easy to do so. And we're going to leave the Void Captain till last. Doing it like this isn't a problem. It's just on that first phase if you leave the Void Captain up, but on the second phase, if there's no captains below, it's not too bad to survive. But they do spam you, and there is 2 snipers. That's the ogre taken out. Now we can finish off the rest of the adds. What I didn't know is if you kill all the adds, the actual Void Captain and all the adds spawn down below. That was interesting that I didn't know. Because generally I take out the Void Captain first, not last. All adds are clear, we're on a really good time, 17 minutes and plus. As I said, this is easily the easiest class to do this on, because you've got invisibility at a moment's notice, so you've got all the protection you need, you've got all the damage you need, you'll have plenty of ammo because you're using double special, which gives you an increased chance at a heavy. You can also stack 3 sword scabs if you've got the master boots. If not, you can do 2. I mean, I went 1 sword scab, 1 fusion scab, because I'm pretty confident with this. But if you wanted to go double sword scab, you could have done that as well, because I'm not absolutely spamming my fusion, you know. I'm using it when I need it, especially it's more needed, so to speak, when I get to the boss because of the solar captains. It just means I can save up on sword and save up on Lucent Blade, so I'm using Lucent Blade only on the boss. Because if I start using my sword, I will use stacks of Charge of Light. Don't want to start using that on the solar captains until I'm ready for boss damage. Take out these scrapes with the fusion, activate the lever. Now we'll go for the fuse, get it first go, that's good. Activate the top lever through the door, and then we need to get a buff. We're close to a tether as well, so if you want to use that on one of the next 2 rooms, there's 2 rooms left for adds until the final boss, so it's a case of which room you prefer to use your tether on, because it is beneficial to use a tether, because you're going to get your tether back when you put a banner down when you get to the boss fight. So this time I chose to wait for the scribs rather than pushing, because the scribs will actually follow you and explode. I'm trying to make them explode there. I'll push for the captains first while I'm in biz. I don't have a tether here just for the sake I just got it. I would have tethered sooner, but I didn't quite have my tether. Takes out all the lurkers. particle deconstruction, overriding that void shield. Then we get the lever, the turret, a fuse, and then the buff, and then we can leave and then go to the maze, to the puzzle below. Oh, I beg your pardon, sorry, I'm not using particle deconstruction, it's actually passive guard, but even without particle deconstruction you can still override match game shield so easy. I'm often forgetting because I'm doing 3 builds in one video, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to do commentary on, because I'm not used to this. Generally I'll just do obviously just condense it into one video each, because it is for better viewing. It generally is. If you're watching a 20-minute video as opposed to a 1-hour one, it's a bit better to swap them up. The only reason why I'm doing this in all one, because it was solo force back to back to back on all 3. That's the only reason. It just means I end up forgetting certain things, or maybe, you know, not putting the right mod on something. Because there's a lot to think about when you want to do all 3 like this back to back without spending too much time in orbit sorting your build out and stuff. So we'll take out all the screams at the middle section. There was some left alive, so be careful on that, because they did explode on me. Lament saved us and passive guard here, so I was close. If I'd wiped there, then I would have had to restart the whole thing. Obviously I would have restarted it from the Titan and then went that way, but it was enough to survive. Obviously I didn't have protective light on, it was just the fact that passive guard and the healing of Lament saved us. Just goes to show though how hard Scrapes hit. If that was any more damage, if that was another Scrape, then that would have been a death. So we're on to the final section for the boss. As I said multiple times, you can do this in one buff. I'm just not well practiced at this minute in time, and I'm not, you know, saves 30 seconds, I'm not too fussed. We'll play it safe, take the snipers out. So take out these 2 snipers. This was quite lucky actually, because I only have 1 weapon to take the fuses. If I'd missed that fusion shot there, then I wouldn't have been able to take the fuse, because I don't think blinding grenades work on the fuses. So I was actually quite lucky, but I was quite wasteful as well. So that's one thing about this whole setup, is it's not really good for taking fuses, because the kinetic GL doesn't do the job. The sword obviously doesn't do the job, so you've got to rely on the fusion. So now on to boss damage. We are charge of light. I kept that intentionally, so I'm going to have Lucent Blade procced for at the very start. Just speeds up just that little bit. So I done that by making sure I didn't use my sword earlier on. I'll start boss damage. I'll do a grenade, jump up in the air, and then do my Lament combo. When you jump in the air and then do your Lament combo, where you guard, rev the sword, right, the combo is more likely to hit the target. Lament has ground tracking and air tracking. The air tracking is far better than the ground tracking, so whenever you're using Lament, do a short hop. Now certain bosses it doesn't matter, but like if you fight maybe the Ogre in the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, or any sort of bosses that it's awkward, or maybe say the Vex boss in Legend Days of Eternity, because it's got Vex legs, it's weird to use Lament on him. But if you jump in the air then do your Lament, you know, and get your Banshee's Will ×9, Lament's way better that way. Because what you'll find is you miss your heavy attack sometimes. It just goes right past the target when you're doing ground Lament. So get used to doing that short hop, because that hop will register as you being in air. It doesn't have to be a big jump, just one hop, and then, you know, it makes it more consistent. Some bosses it doesn't matter as much. Okay, we'll lead with a tether first, because that's a debuff. So we'll tether the boss first, then use Lament, which that does all the damage pretty much straight away. We'll go invis immediately after that, because you can see we're weak. Passive guard will help us. We haven't got solar resist on this class because I'm using powerful friends on my plate, which you need to be arc. So I opted not to have, obviously, solar resist, but having, you know, invis at your fingertips makes up for the fact that you don't have that. Let's kick in our blinds. Use Cartesian, because that's mainly what Cartesian's for right now on this setup. Lament's literally all for the boss. Cartesian's just for ag clear, so we can spam that ammo type. We're charged with light again, so we're ready for next phase damage. We're 9 minutes in. So you save a lot of time on this because there's not all that time where you're waiting and you're going back and forth between exits like I did with the Sleeper run on the Warlock. You know, you've got to sort of play it by ear. On this, you just literally attack the boss because you're going to get all that healing. Even if you leave the captains alive, it's still not a problem because of passive guard, just because of how strong it is. We'll activate the last switch. Charge light, we've got plenty of sword ammo. There will be ads alive, because I haven't took them out. The boss teleported there, as you saw as well. I'm waiting for the boss to sort of get to a point where he just stands still a little bit. Now start my lament. Do my combo, then do an invis right after that. Wait for sword recharge rate. And then we go again. Then we re-invis up. This is why 100% mobility is just so handy. If I didn't have 100% mobility, I wouldn't have had as much invis as I did. So that's why it's so important if you're using a top tree Night Stalker build for invis, as opposed to bottom tree. Like when you're swording, like when you're doing a sword type build on a hunter, it's better for top tree because it's just a little bit easier to go invis when you're using a sword. Because if you use your you try and smoke when you can't when you've got a sword equipped, but when you dodge when you got a sword, you go invis. It's just it's a bit better than, you know, on this setup at least. Different invis playstyles suit different loadouts. It's not just what is the best invis build. That's not the question. The question is, right, what loadout are you using? Alright, this is the best invis build, or this is the best. Just depends. Obviously for Grandmasters, what's the best invis build? Well, it's going to be your either your 6 Coyote or Graviton Forfeit. People swear by the Omnioculus, which I don't, but people do. That's fair enough. If they like that, they can use that. But when you're doing other stuff, maybe you're fighting Shriekers and things like that, things that track you while you're invis, then top tree Night Stalker is better, because top tree Night Stalker breaks all enemy tracking. Bottom tree Tether does not do that when you're invis. The smoke bomb is a different type of invis. It does de-aggro a lot of things, but not everything. So we've got Charge of Light here, so we're just going to use our sword to finish off the boss. But that was Solar Flawless Master Presage on all 3 classes back to back. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.